so what we're going to do now is spend a couple of hours. We'll see how long it takes, and I'll walk around and try to help people. Hopefully you're downloading the tools you need. You're getting yourself connected. Once you get yourself connected, you're going to need to create a database. I'm repeating this because we have 47 accounts issued, and I have less than 20 or around, what is it, 24, 25 databases, which means less than half of you have created your database already. So some of you are getting errors, and I keep forgetting, actually, there's a little problem. Not problem, but there's a syntax thing. When you use the create database command, you go create database space, the name of the database you're creating, because that's the first thing you'll have to do when you get into your account. You must start it out saying student 00 something or other underscore. So if you start it out, and I'll show you some of them that have been successfully created right now. There's a couple of different choices you can do. You can actually call it timeshare world if you want to, like somebody did. Or you can call it anything you want. See, here's some other ones. See, all of the databases that are connected so far all have student 001 underscore something, student 003 underscore something. You can create more than one database. So this one here, 003, which is your database, you can create a new one, student 003 underscore trade timeshare world. If you create a timeshare world database and use that as the name, I'm not going to get confused where I should look. Because here's what we're going to do next. So, assuming you got connected, first thing you're going to do is create the database object. And then inside of the database object, you're going to create some tables. So, if you look at the, let's take a look here. I'll just shut that for a second. If you look in the behacker.com website, you can download the exercises. So it's in the course materials. And then it's going to be hands-on practice 1. Hands-on practice 1. We're doing the whole thing together as a whole. You can work in teams on this if you want, but each one of you should populate your own account. So if you want to work in groups, you can. I'm not going to put you in groups. But if you're sitting next to people, obviously you're all doing the same thing. You can work together on it and help each other out, which might be a good thing to do. I don't really care. Everyone's just going to look the same. Everyone's turning in the same thing. This is the one point in which you can actually share something and actually come out with the same thing. And what is the same thing? This is the same thing. It's going to be this guy here. Oh, not that one. That's an assignment. You don't want that one to be the same thing. So if you download that exercise, it's actually from a book. It's a published book that's available for free off of the internet. The guy put this together. It's actually not bad. He's got a whole series. This one here is pretty straightforward, pretty simple. He made the series for Microsoft Access, but don't worry about it. There's only a couple little things in here that look like they're Access, related, little screenshots that are Access stuff. Let me talk about this for a few though. So the book has 15 different database activities in it. Some of them are for databases implementation, some of them aren't. He basically takes you through a series of steps with some sheets that you fill out. Don't worry about filling the sheets out. The only thing I'm going to look at is I'm going to go in here and I'm going to take a look at your database and verify that it actually looks like everybody else's. You can't see everybody else's, you can only see yours. So you can't go in and copy somebody else's, but eventually you're going to come out with the same thing as everybody else. Which means if you want, you can work in teams if you want, because it depends on how good your database background is. Some people are really going to struggle with this. Some people are going to knock it out in 5 seconds or 5 minutes. It's really not that bad. You do not have to look at the sheets, and you might notice as well that there's answer sheets. So the answer sheets aren't going to do you any good, because it's not, unless it goes in mySQL and creates it for you, not going to do you very much good. So in task number 14, it starts out 14. The beginning stuff was too easy. So this is actually at the point where we're going to start doing stuff. So don't worry about the numbering. And don't worry about actually, following this step by step. What you want is the end result. If you read the description, you're creating a timeshare world holidays database. And you read through the description of what it is you're building. And then you can look at some sample examples of information required for the timeshares for a member as shown below. And these are some example sheets. So customer has come to you. The customer is following the scenario here of the timeshare holiday. So they came to you and they said, hey, I'd like this database build. Can you put it together for me? So if you read through the description, you'll get a better understanding what it's about. And then the database will be called Timeshare World. Now, you can abbreviate that. You can't put spaces in Oracle. It's not going to, well, if it works for you, it's not going to work all the time for you. Better not to put any spaces in, so you can just call it Timeshare or Time World or Timeshare _ World, which I think someone actually has done already. I think there is a timeshare. That's a good example right there. Timeshare _ World. So number 12 is ahead of the game, whoever 12 is. So you got the right thing going on there. But if we go in here, I don't think there's anything in here. Nope, there's nothing in here yet. So we don't have anything built yet. Probably he or she was probably waiting to find out what we're going to do. All right, so you're going to build the database. And then if you read through the description, the exercise actually has you fill out some data types that are associated with this stuff. You can actually do the exercise if you want to do the exercise and pick out. So the common data identified by Jack is here. And remember, you are encouraged to use field names of one word. If spaces are used, you might have a problem with complex queries. And so use appropriate field names where appropriate. So if you look at exercise number 1, it has you go through a series of steps. You don't have to worry about that. You don't have to do it step by step. So, set the data type for most fields to text and do this and do that. Instead, think of the big picture. You don't have to fill this form out either. If you look at the solution, here's the recommended solution. Write the queries, design the tables to put this into mySQL. This stuff we've been talking about with entity relationship diagrams. I'm going to assume that you've done an entity relationship diagram before. I'm going to assume that you've looked at some of the other stuff so far in the course and you can figure out what a field size is and a data type. You might have to play around. This might be integer instead of number, which I believe it is actually. Number I don't think is supported in MySQL. So you can play around with the data types if you'd like. You're putting this table in. This is the Timeshare World. This is the Timeshare Clients table. And when we come down further, we have the Timeshare Properties table. And then we come down a little bit further, we have this thing with the keys. And now you're looking at this going, oh look, someone did me a little entity relationship diagram. Yes. So it's assuming that the entity relationship diagram has already been done. And so it's going to link the two tables together, the customers with the products. This is actually fairly simple. I tried to pick something that was extremely easy because we have different learning curves going on in here. So you're going to follow. You don't have to fill in this or do the exercise. But what you're going to do then is look at the primary keys, and then you're going to set the primary keys. So make sure, like up here, we don't have any primary keys set. Well, nothing designated. So reinforce the primary and the foreign key concept. If you looked at the whole thing all in one, read through the whole thing, you could possibly minimize the amount of work you did by creating the queries to create your tables automatically, including the primary keys. If not, then you're going to need to alter the tables. So it's sort of a scavenger hunt to see that if you can write the queries correctly. Most likely, unless you're really good at the GUI tools, it's probably going to take you longer to use the GUI tools than it is just to write the queries in SQL. So you're going to have a create database space, the name of the database. You're going to use the database if you're using this through PuTTY. And then you're going to create table such and such. I'd write it down on a piece of paper or put it in a notepad file. That way you can alter it without having to retype it. And then you can cut and paste and stick it in the window. And then you can save your work. I don't need to see anything written down though, because what I'm going to do is go in and take a look at the actual end result. So the end result should be set up so that the tables, they kind of resemble that actually, hopefully. And the keys are designated as well, so you have the primary and foreign key. And then there's an additional requirement that I want you to do on this when you get all done. So you're going to put in the Timeshare World database, and you're going to have the links in here, and then you're going to create a new database called Timeshare World, and you're going to put it. This is what I said about the Access stuff. This design view. This is for Microsoft Access. You're not using Access. You're using mySQL. But the same kind of concept can be done in anything. So you're going to save the table, timeshare clients. You're going to go through. You're going to put in the timeshare properties. Save the table. You're not, unless you're going to use the relationship window, which is what you're going to see over here. There is a window called relationships. Let me go back to something that has. Let me go back to this database here. Yeah, there we go. Let's see what trigger relations. We don't have relations built. The table does not support relations. Okay, good. Let's go into something else here. This one supports relations. Relation for table, my table. Well, anyway, long story short, you could build the relationships in the MySQL, or you can just build it through the referential integrity, which means you're not going to see anything. It's just one thing is going to be a primary key, the other thing is going to be a foreign key. You don't have to worry about using the relationship symbol, the buttons. It depends on the GUI tool. You might be able to create it, but I'm not going to see it in your database. It's not going to show up, actually. It's a design tool. So then you're going to add the tables to it for the clients, populate some stuff in here. The additional feature that's not in here, I don't have any additional memories, is I want you to run 5 sample queries. So you're going to give me 5 sample queries, and the sample queries are going to, 2 of the 5 are going to join 1 or more tables, but you only have 2 tables. So 2 of them have to join 2 tables together. So come up with 5 queries. Now you're not going to be able to save the queries, but you'll be able to run the queries. So just the same way, some of you managed to send me an email message because I have a group here already, student roster, student accounts. You can send me another email message with your queries in the body of the email message. And then on the subject line, put your student. This one here in particular is really good, actually. Student, what was it? Student account. Oh, I like this one. This one's perfect. This one's perfect. So on the subject line of the, if you haven't done this yet, because I only have 25 of these and I've given out 47 numbers. So 47 numbers were issued, 25 people have responded. I know that more than half of you have computers, so I'm thinking there's probably a lost connection going on here. This is a good sample for those people who haven't done this yet. This is a good example of what to do. Send me an email message to bhacker@itu.edu. In the subject line, put your student number. So do it again. So this person, here we go, student 14. Put student 014. That way I know who you are. This one here, I can probably figure you out. But I'm looking for this. I'm looking for student 005. I'm assuming this one's student 00026. And then what I'm going to see is that when I'm sorted by who you are, then I'm going to see your queries, and then I'm going to see who you are, which is that final step. So you're going to write 5 queries. 2 of the 5 queries are going to use both tables together. You're going to join them somehow. And then run the queries after you've populated some data into your, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to come over here, I'm going to go, okay, here's your query, copy. And then I'm going to come over here and say, oh, this guy, oh, okay, here we go. All right, paste. Run your query, and then see if then that's a good test to see if you actually built everything correctly. 5 queries of your choice. That's all you have to do. That's the additional requirement. That's not a query. That's something else. That's somebody's. Oh, that's somebody's student ID. Sorry. So, questions about what you're going to do. The format for what you're going to do. You're all doing it in MySQL, so the syntax is going to be all the same. As you're doing this, and we'll just break out for a couple hours and then we'll see how things work. I don't know how long it's going to take you to do this. You guys can have as long as you want. This is a better learning experience than listening to me lecture to you. So I'd rather have everybody finish it in class today if you have a computer. Tomorrow we'll be doing another exercise. So if you didn't bring your computer, I think everyone has a computer, but if you didn't bring a computer today, make sure you bring it tomorrow. And we'll all be set up, and so I have a couple more exercises for us to do. This one's just getting your feet wet, because I've seen it's taken half the day just to get people connected. So now that we're connected, hopefully most of us are at this point, then we can start building tables and start running queries. What we're probably going to end up doing tomorrow is going to be a little bit more sophisticated. We might build onto this one. I haven't posted it yet because I haven't decided how far we're going to get today. So it depends. I was kind of playing it by ear. I didn't know if this is going to be difficult, this is going to be easy, what's going to happen. So tomorrow, depending upon the results from today, if I go through and I see everyone's done everything correctly and I got a lot of finished products today, I'm going to assume that we're good. And then I can kind of aim. And then otherwise we'll do something a little easier. Tomorrow is more challenging, but not that much more challenging. Questions, comments, or concerns? So let's try to keep the volume down, otherwise the neighbors are going to bother us. But while you can work together, as I mentioned before, work at your own pace. It's 2:15 or 2:18 right now, so how much time would you guys like before I interrupt you? A couple hours? An hour? Hour and a half? How about at 3:30, which is an hour from now, I'll touch base with you and see how everybody's doing. Is that not enough time, an hour?
All we have to do is just follow the documents and create.
Yeah, the problem in the beginning is reading it. You know, read the document. It's not really a problem for most people, but understanding what you're building, and then you don't really have to design anything. You're just putting it in. You're just putting it, but it's time consuming, especially if this is the first time you've ever used a tool to connect to a client-server database. Some of you got connected in 2 seconds. Some of you still haven't gotten connected yet. So some of you will do this in 2 seconds, and if that's the case, you can relax for the rest of the time. And some of you won't be able to do this at all. So let's wait. Okay, let's do it till 4. How's that? And then if the attendance person comes in between 2:30, 3:30, that's an hour and a half. It's an hour and a half is good. At 4 o'clock, we'll reconvene. So if you take a break, go and come back. What I'm going to try and do is if the attendance person that has come, I'm going to wait and have her come back at 4. Make sure you're back in the room at 4 o'clock for the attendance person. Otherwise, with people on their own schedule doing this whole lab thing, I have no idea. Someone might leave, go to the restroom, come back, who knows. But at 4 o'clock, I'm going to try and plan the attendance. Did you have a question? I'm sorry, I think I interrupted you. Yeah?
We need to create 2 tables.
Uh-huh.
What kind of 5 queries? I didn't actually understand.
5 queries on the 2 tables. Queries of your choice. 2 of the 5 queries must involve both tables.
On join and any select or update or any.
You may do an inner, you may do an outer, you may do a inequality. But you want to be able to bring in the data from both tables. If you look at the theme, there's a relationship between them. Actually, it's written for you here. So you've got client code with client code link here. Timeshare ID. So you can take the client code and query, well, here's the client code here, or timeshare code. You can figure out the postal code, the phone number, given the client code, or you can write another query. The queries are going to be very similar in nature. So, but you may develop any 5 queries you want using anything you want. You can remember about writing queries. Okay, so at 4 o'clock we'll have the attendance run, and I'll make sure they know that. And then try and complete this assignment. If you do the assignment, you may substitute one of your 4 assignments. If you do the assignment, hold on a second, you may not have to do one of these 5. If you do the database, and I go in and I see that you've done it, the 2 tables are there, and you send me an email message that has your 5 queries in it, and I match it up with you, and I have your name because you sent me an email. Only 25 people did it, which is amazing. Then, if that's the case, then you can skip one of those 5 assignments. If you did all 5 assignments, then what will end up happening is it'll act as extra credit for you. So if you don't pass the final, you don't do well on the final exam, you have to show up for it anyway. But if you don't want to worry about taking that test, if you do this one, it's as if you got an A on the final. If you did all 5 assignments. So it takes some of the stress away from the final exam. Tomorrow's activity will be an extension on this one. So it counts the same way, but you can't get 2. It's only 1. You can substitute today or you can substitute tomorrow. I will tell you tomorrow's is going to be a little bit more challenging. So this is the easy one. This is the easy one. If you could do today's, then take your 5 points or whatever it is you get with that today. Tomorrow, don't worry about tomorrow's. Tomorrow, worry about tomorrow when tomorrow comes. So. Any other questions? Those are really good questions. Yes? The access is denied because you're not using the right syntax. And the right syntax that you need to use, your access will be denied unless you create the table using this. The database.
Once we are logging in and after changing the password.
Correct.
Yeah, and again we log in with the new password. It is the access is denied.
Try the old password and try setting it one more time.
Yeah, we tried several times.
Okay, I'm going to come over and help you individually. Is there anything else anyone has right now? And as I mentioned before, please do try to keep the volume down. I don't want to get too loud in this class. It's already loud. But, okay. All right. Then you have till 4 o'clock.